Welcome to
The Dark Files. I'm Emily Sweaters.
And I'm Kasie Cardigan. Sorry, I'm moving around on the couch, getting comfortable.
Okay.
Okay, Emily, even though I've already been talking to you for like 20 minutes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I had a window guy.
That you almost maimed in the
I
head.
didn't name him. Well, I hit him on the arm. He asked me to pull up the blinds, and I did, and it fell on him. But
That's all right.
he was like talking his salesman game, and I didn't think it was going to last that long. So, yeah, Casey's been over here for a minute.
So I already cracked my claw because I was listening to the window treatment. And I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and open my white claw. So if anybody on here knows how to do window treatments, not window treatments, but like do windows.
I don't know if this is a good price. And he was kind of pressuring me.
I was very confused when he asked you, he's like, are you a millennial or Gen X?
Yeah, because
Gen Z.
I was like, because I want to talk to my parents about it because, yeah, I don't know anything about anything.
Girl, I literally call grandpa and mom.
And so I'm like, yeah, I just want to ask my parents. And he's like, he got kind of shitty about that. But
because he wanted to.
Because he wants my money.
Yeah.
He wants me to commit.
I mean, he was pretty much a typical salesman. Yeah. He was very nice,
He was very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, back to the story.
The dark file.
The dark file. Crack open that file.
I already cracked open the claw.
All right, crack that claw. Okay.
I'm also eating, so apologies if you hear my chewing.
Okay.
Okay, so
it's all good.
This week we're going to be talking about the sad case of Genie Wiley.
Okay.
And you've never heard of this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Unless you start talking and then I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it might sound familiar as I go. Especially, did you ever take any like psychology classes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you might be familiar with this case. So, Genie Wiley was considered a feral child.
Okay.
So, feral does not mean that they were like raised by animals. Some of them are. But a feral child basically means that they were deprived of human interaction during their development.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have definitely had some children act feral.
So when I was in college at Northern Kentucky University.
Go Norse!
Go Norse! I was in the honors program. And the honors program had like the coolest classes.
Okay.
I took so many cool classes in the honors program. I took one on rock documentaries.
Okay.
Where we watched like a bunch of like, sorry, that's my work makes us do a daily COVID questionnaire, and they must think that I'm working right now.
Oh, okay.
That's what that was. Anyways, so
rock documentaries.
Yeah, it was on rock documentaries. We took like a regular documentary class. I took one on memoirs where you just read a bunch of memoirs. Like they had the coolest classes, but probably the coolest one, or one of the coolest ones, was feral children.
That was a whole class?
A whole class, whole semester. And there's, like, multiple different feral children throughout history. So, like, starting way back in, like, the 1700s, maybe even earlier than that. The first one was Victor of Avignon.
Is that the one that was raised by wolves?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, so we started back there, and then we read books and, like, watched movies and stuff. We watched the movie Nell. Have you ever watched Nell? Mm-mm. It was the worst fucking movie.
Okay, I'm not going to watch it then.
It's got Jodie Foster, who I hate.
Okay, damn.
Liam Neeson and Natasha Richardson. That's how they met. Was on the set of Nell.
R.I.P.
Yeah, and it's about Jodie Foster's like a feral child that they find, but she's like a grown ass adult, so she's like a feral adult.
I was gonna say, don't they have to be like the same age?
Yeah, and like she can't really talk because it's just terrible, Kasie. Like there's this one part where she's trying to say "tree in the wind" and she goes "tay in the wind." It's the worst movie. Anyways, I hate Nell. I hate Jodie Foster. Moving on. So, yeah. So and I learned about Genie when I was in high school, the very first time I took psychology classes. And then we talked about her again in this feral children class.
Okay. So, T in the way.
T in the way.
Okay.
That's exactly what it sounds like. Okay, so in October of 1970, a woman wandered into the LA County Welfare Office trying to find disability services because she was blind. But because she was blind, she couldn't see what room she actually stumbled into. So she thought she was going to disability like claims or whatever, but she went to the welfare office. Okay. So she had a child with her that appeared to be malnourished. She held her hands oddly, almost like a bunny. And the employees at the welfare office were like interested and concerned about this situation. So this very malnourished looking kind of disabled person comes in with her. So they start like asking questions like and kind of investigating. And they discovered that this child couldn't talk, was not toilet trained.
And how old was the child?
I'll get there.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just didn't know if you said it.
Salivated and spat like an infant.
Like a dribble? Yeah. Like how Leo dribbles?
Yes, just like how Leo dribbles.
Leo's so cute.
And she had 2 complete sets of teeth, which is a very rare like dental thing where you have like and like
what?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Jeez, I have trouble flossing my one set of teeth.
I know, right?
I can't remember to floss.
She couldn't chew or swallow.
She couldn't chew?
Nope. She weighed 59 pounds and was 13 years old.
Oh my God, that makes me so sad.
Yes.
Ugh.
So, her actual name has never been released to protect her privacy, which I think is silly because everybody knows who she is. But so they used her Genie as like a pseudonym, so that's not her real name.
Oh.
So when who
picked that name?
There was I think something that I read said that it was like kind of like a genie in a bottle kind of thing, which will make sense as I get to that part.
I'm a genie.
So her father had strapped her into a handmade straitjacket.
Wait, hang on. So they're finding all of this out
as they continue to investigate and like.
So they're all like still in the office, or this is investigation
as the investigation like goes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So they find that her father had strapped her in a handmade straitjacket and tied her to a potty chair, when she was a toddler, and he left her isolated in a room, basically by herself, tied to this potty chair, and she was in a
potty chair.
Yeah, you know, like little kids, like when they're.
Oh, like one of those little toilets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I never heard it called a potty chair. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
I don't know what I thought it was called.
Maybe it was different back in the day. Like maybe it was, I don't know, but it
makes sense.
It was like a little kid's
You're good.
toilet. Sorry. So she wasn't allowed to cry or make noise. So every time that she cried or made noise, he would come in there and beat the shit out of her.
Oh my God.
So Genie's case made the news. Like once, like the investigation came forward, like it was all over the place. As one of the worst incidents of child abuse in U.S. history.
That I know of.
Yeah, at the time anyways. So her father was named Clark Wiley. He was a dick. And
oh, so they didn't even change her last name?
No.
Oh.
They just changed her first name.
Okay, well that's kind of stupid.
I know, I think it's really dumb.
Okay.
So Clark, her dad, grew up in foster homes and worked as an aircraft assembly mechanic during and after World War II.
Mm-hmm. So
he married Genie's mom, Irene Oglesby, who is 20 years younger than him. Robbing the cradle a little bit there, Clark. So he was a controlling man and didn't want kids.
Okay.
So
should have married someone that's 20 years younger than you, Clark.
Yeah. And I didn't read this anywhere, but I'm assuming they didn't use birth control because
I'm assuming he's also got a buttload of trauma.
God, Barb.
If he was in and out of foster care.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And served in the World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he has his own messed up problem.
Irene bore him 4 children.
To the man who didn't want them.
The first died. And I did some research also, of course, as always, I forgot to cite my sources. Article from The Guardian, Wikipedia, and then I watched a couple of 60 Minutes Australia had a documentary or like a special on feral children that talked about Genie. But yeah, so I don't understand why this didn't get any legal like ramifications, but the first baby died after Clark left it in a cold garage.
But I bet, okay, well that's also awful.
Yeah.
But I wonder at that time, like if they didn't really have any, if that was just like oh, shucks.
Yeah. I mean,
like that's a bummer.
Yeah, and I'm sure they played it off like
it was
something different, not intentional. So the first one died after they left him in a cold garage. That's like
people leaving the babies in hot cars.
Oh my God. I watched a documentary about that the other night.
That's fucked up.
It's actually, it's about the parents who did it. And there's actually like a lot of like psychological, like, they have like a psychologist on there that talks about like, it actually makes sense that happens.
That they leave them there?
Yeah.
On purpose or on accident?
On accident. Yeah. Almost all of them are on accident.
Because, like, I could see you're busy of so many things going on.
Yeah. And, like, we have
And if your baby's quiet and you're just, like, in a rhythm.
Yeah. And, like, we go on autopilot to, like, save our brain capacity. Like, so, like, when you're driving to work.
Right.
And so.
That one's sad. I don't think he did it on an autopilot.
Oh, no. This guy's a dick. Yeah. But it's on Amazon Prime. It's called, like, Dead Children or something.
Jesus! Dead children.
I don't know if that's exactly what it's
called. That's a dark fucking file right there.
It is. So, okay. First one died like freezing to death.
Yeah.
Okay. Second died from childbirth complications.
Okay.
The third was a boy named John who lived.
Oh.
And then 5 years later, Genie was born. Okay.
Okay.
So, in 1958, a drunk driver killed Clark's mother.
A drunk driver killed Clark. Okay.
So, Genie's dad. So, drunk driver killed his mom, and he lost his fucking mind.
Yeah.
So, he began beating John, so that's Genie's brother.
Oh.
And locked Genie, who was 20 months old at the time.
Wait, but I thought he was in foster care.
This is when he's an adult, and he has his own children.
I know, but I thought... Okay, sorry. Somebody killed Genie's mom?
No. His mom. So even
who was his mom?
His biological mom.
So he knew her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like confused. I thought he like didn't have a family.
Oh no. Like I think it was one of the situations where he saw like contact with her, but grew up in foster homes. So he began beating John and locked Genie, who was 20 months old at the time, in a room. When she wasn't harnessed to the potty seat, she was put in the straitjacket. And he had this like wire mesh covered crib like finagled to like hold her in. So it was like,
where the fuck is her mom?
So when Genie began to cry or make any noise, he would beat her, and that's how she spent the entire decade of the 1960s.
Oh my God, I want to vomit.
I know, isn't this terrible? So Barb,
that's your cat.
I fucking hate
Not
her.
me.
I love her, but okay. So
mesh crib.
Mesh crib, yeah. So he kept her in this. And Irene was blind.
The whole time?
Yeah, she had cataracts and, like, was blind. So a lot of people believe that she was also a victim of his abuse. And I'm sure she was.
Oh, I bet for sure she was.
So in other things I read, it said that when Genie was a toddler, she already had some developmental delays. So... a lot of people think that part of the reason why he put her in here is because they thought she was going to be mentally handicapped. So, like, they were already kind of concerned about her development in the first place, and then...
So, somebody you're already concerned about, you just go ahead and lock them in a fucking room?
Yep.
Wait, sorry. So, the mom had cataracts the whole time? I thought cataracts was, like, an old people thing.
And sometimes it is, but young people can get it.
So, she's been blind the whole time that they've been together?
Yes. Yes. So, in 1970, Irene finally flees. So, she waits till Clark goes to work, and she bounces, and she takes Genie with her.
And what about Johnny?
Yeah, I don't think John was... Maybe John was at school or something.
She's like, we gotta just keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, after the news broke of Genie's abuse, Clark was charged with child abuse.
Good.
But before he could be brought to justice, he killed himself.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, he died from suicide, shot himself, and left a note saying, "The world will never understand."
I understand. You are correct.
The world will never understand. So, at this point, Genie's been taken from the home and is a ward of the court and was moved to LA's Children's Hospital. Okay. So, doctors and scientists from all around the world were like desperate to study her. Because around this time there was a like intellectual feud between B.F. Skinner, who was a behaviorist, and he believed that all behavior is learned.
Which one's the rat? Skinner?
Skinner, yep. Yeah. So Skinner believes that everything that we learn and do and say is through conditioning and behaviorism. Okay. Then we have our boy Noam Chomsky. And he believed that specifically language, human beings have an inherent capacity for language.
I kind of believe that.
So
I get both of the sides.
B.F. Skinner believes that it's all learned. Right. So it's not like we're born with a capacity for language. We learn language after listening to our parents and family members and stuff talk to us. And Noam Chomsky said, no, part of what makes us human is this innate ability for language. So there was this feud between them, like an intellectual feud.
Which one do you think?
I believe Noam Chomsky.
Yeah.
But so everybody wanted to study her.
Yeah.
Because you can't replicate something like this.
Right. Oh, God, no.
So, like, when feral children are discovered, a lot of psychologists, linguists, developmental researchers want to study them.
Right. Because they're almost like primate-ish.
Yeah. And, like...
primate, but, like...
And then it gives you a unique opportunity to study, like, the effects of deprivation, neglect, abuse. So you can't replicate these things ethically at all. And so, again, it's like an unfortunate opportunity for them to study. So, my sister just texted me and said they're opening another mattress store on Mall Road.
Guys, that's going to be an episode one day. Because apparently mattress stores
are everywhere.
For money laundering.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
So, sorry.
Isn't there already a mattress one on Mall Road?
Yes. There's
Denver.
Several. There's like 3 on Mall Road.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, sorry. Little aside. But yeah, that should be a dark file someday.
We should. Maybe I'll do it next week.
So feral children are an unfortunate opportunity for studies. So when Genie was discovered, she could speak a few words, such as blue, orange, mother, and go.
What an interesting combination of words.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, like, maybe, like, there were blue and orange stuff in the room she was kept in, or...
I'm sure she didn't learn, like, no.
Yeah.
Like, to be like, no, don't. You know what I mean? But I guess maybe not.
Yeah. So... but mostly remained silent. Like, she would, like, kind of, and, you know, like, it wasn't like she was eloquently articulating these words. They were
like a baby,
kind of like grunts,
like learning to speak. Yeah.
And so she peed and pooped herself also when she was distressed. So not toilet trained, and almost like really infantile, like very much like a baby, except she's 13 years old.
This makes me want to cry.
So initially, scientists were really optimistic about Genie's progress. So she's got like a whole team of people working with her. So she's got a linguist. And so one woman who got really close to Genie, her name was Susan Curtis, and she was studying language and linguists, which I don't know why that's something you'd want to study, but
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting, but I don't know, just not my...
It's not your thing.
Not my
thing.
thing.
It's kind of interesting.
So, Susan Curtis, she was like brand new. She was like, I think, fresh out of her PhD program.
Got it.
And she was
Young
like
little baby.
hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
So she got really close with Genie. And there was, like doctors certainly working, like pediatricians, developmental psychologists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, all these people working with her. And so initially they were really optimistic and like hoped for like a Helen Keller type of like breakthrough, right? Like,
okay, but I don't even know if you could compare Helen Keller to this girl, though.
You can't, but that's what they were hoping for.
Okay.
Like, Barb, chill the fuck out.
She's fine.
Sorry, I'm like full of fucks tonight.
Hey! Ow!
Barb!
Barb! That one... Barb, I did nothing to you. Alright, anyway,
She's so
keep going.
annoying. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So...
Barb, for those of you that didn't see...
She just bit Casey's head.
She, like, just attacked my head.
Okay, so she learned how to play, chew, dress herself, and liked music.
She didn't learn to go to the bathroom.
I'm not sure if she ever learned how to do that or not.
Okay.
So she expanded her vocabulary, And so learned a bunch of new words, and words that she hadn't quite grasped yet, she could draw a picture of.
Oh.
So, like, to communicate. So she was communicating, right? And they gave her intelligence tests, and she performed well on those. So,
like, within the average range?
Yeah.
Oh.
So this led them to believe that she never, like, how there was some thought that she had a developmental disability that she didn't.
Yeah.
So Susan Curtis, the bright young PhD lady, described Genie as being curious, intelligent, and sweet. Genie was able to amass tons of vocabulary words, but was never able to learn the logistics of grammar.
Honestly, half the time I don't either.
Yeah. But as a result, couldn't, like, assemble all these words that she was learning into meaningful sentences.
Oh.
So, like, what they learned through studying Genie is that language and, like, vocabulary are not the same thing. Language is grammar. Language is being able to take all of these words that you're learning and string them together in a way that you can communicate what you need.
Okay.
So, and that makes sense to me. Like I remember learning, like, when I took Spanish, like, the vocab words were easy.
Right.
But, like, then you get into the grammar part where it's like, okay, now I have to remember what verb tense and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, so she was never able to learn language, right? So she could learn vocabulary, but she could not acquire language. And so, as a result, the team hypothesized that Noam Chomsky was right. We do have an internal a capacity for language. He calls it the language acquisition device, LAD. But there's a critical period. And they hypothesize that it's between ages 5 and 10.
Oh.
So if a child does not know language by the age 10, they're probably not going to be able to do it. There's a critical window, and if you miss it,
like, to learn how to form a sentence.
Yes, to learn, like, how to learn language, which I think is really interesting. So Genie's case provided evidence that there is a critical period for language acquisition device, but it expires and can't be reclaimed. So
that's so sad.
Yeah. So this is where Genie's story takes another pretty shitty turn.
God, I feel like there's already been a bunch of shitty turns.
So in June of 1971, Genie left the hospital. So she was at LA Children's Hospital forever, just being studied and worked with, to live with one of her teachers from her hospital. Okay. But soon after, she was placed with the scientist heading her research team, whose name was David Rigler. And she lived with him for 4 years. So there became, like, and this is another interesting ethical thing, is, like, can somebody who's studying you be your caretaker?
I was actually just going to say that. I'm like, that doesn't seem super
It's not ethical. It's not ethical. It'd be like if I took home one of my patients. Like, I can't do that.
Right.
Right. It's very unethical.
But you can't take them home and still treat them.
Exactly. Well, I couldn't even...
I know, but I'm saying, like,
But even so, there's laws, like, you're not allowed to have a platonic relationship with the patient for 5 years after the therapeutic relationship ends.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that from grad school. But I also have children. I'm, like,
yours is a little
different.
different.
Mine's a whole different world.
But anyhow, so eventually there became disagreements between the scientist and like Genie's mom. So there was a woman named Jean Butler who was the teacher at the hospital that took her in initially. Okay, but she was a lot. Like, it was a lot for her to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's when she went to live with David Rigler, who she lived with for 4 years. David Rigler was the scientist. So then there started to be this, like, ethical, like, consideration. Like, they're exploiting Genie by, like, living with your subject. And then they got her mom involved, Irene. And so the scientists believed that the caretakers weren't able to provide Genie with the stimulation she needed for her rehabilitation. So, like, Genie's mom, Irene, and the teacher from the hospital are saying, you're exploiting her. And the scientists are saying, you don't have the capacity to help her. Like, you can't give her what she needs. So there are these two sides fighting. But eventually, research funding dried up for
this situation.
Yeah, for Genie's, like, I guess the research they were doing with her. So eventually the scientists did stop caring for her. particularly this guy she was living with, which leads me to think that probably was some exploitation, because if
it's not out of the goodness of his heart.
So her mom Irene actually got custody back of Genie.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, at this point she was like almost 18. But she was overwhelmed with the responsibility of caring for her.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot to deal with, especially when for the first...
She has a disability. She's blind.
She's blind. So Genie then went to another foster home and then a series of state institutions where social workers barred any of the scientists, researchers that worked with her before from having access or contact with her. So Susan Curtis, our girl, she's actually like, I've always like really liked her when I've like seen footage of her. Mm-hmm. But Susan Curtis, I'm going to read you a quote from her. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I'm not in touch with her, but not by my choice. They never let me have any contact with her. I've become powerless in my attempts to visit her or write to her. I long to see her. There is a hole in my heart and soul from not being able to see her that doesn't go away.
Oh,
isn't that sad? And so she like really like grew to care for her and like really, I think, loved her. And so they've tried to get in contact with her, or, you know, like they try to figure out like where she was at, but nobody would let him come in. So as of today, one thing we do know, let me back up, is that pretty much all of the progress Genie had made was soon reversed.
Oh no.
Without all these people working with her.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of these state-run institutions don't have the capacity to like provide somebody with stimulation that they need. And there was one thing I read where somebody saw her, like, I think it was a worker or an employee at one of these institutions she was in. It was like her birthday, and like he knew she wasn't, recognized her, and said that she was just like not there, like just totally checked out. And so today we don't know what happened to her. We don't know if she's alive or dead. None of the doctors who get close to her have been permitted to see her. And so she's likely living in a state-funded rehabilitation center, and her identity continues to be protected, which honestly, it should be, right?
Right, yeah.
Because she's not in a position to give consent, and her mom probably didn't want them to have that. So,
jeez.
Yeah, so that's the dark file. And so, so when we learned about Genie in like my psychology classes, it was when we were talking about language. So there's two areas of the brain that deal with language. There's Broca's area and Wernicke's area.
Okay. And
Broca's area is the ability to form language. Mm-hmm. And Wernicke's area is the ability to interpret it.
Okay.
So with Genie, her Broca's area was not stimulated enough to be developed.
Okay. Which is
being able to speak language and like form language. Wernicke's area means you can understand it. So it sounds like she was able to understand, you know, a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the communication, but she was never able to like form language.
Okay. So in the trauma class that I took this summer, one of the things that I learned that I thought was kind of interesting, and it has to do kind of with this in speech, is that like when people are undergoing trauma and then like reliving the trauma, but so when you're undergoing the trauma, it like doesn't develop that language part of your brain, like that part shuts down.
Yeah.
And then so also if you're reliving the trauma, that part of your brain is still shut down. So like, which is why some people go like silent or they like scream, because the ability to like process words or like say things like didn't develop because of the trauma.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the thing. So I'm wondering if like that in connection, like all of that together.
Yeah.
She would have been able to.
I mean, and that's another thing that's like, as a therapist, like that's sad that like she's not going to be able to express what happened to her and like process that. Because
think about it, anytime that she's reliving it, because that's what in a lot of things that from the trauma class that I took, it was like, oh, poor baby.
She's so sweet.
Emily showed me a picture.
Yeah, and if you I'm gonna try to see if I can find, maybe we can link this on our post, but there's a video of her, like, walking, and she was, like, strapped to a potty chair, so, like, she never really learned how to walk.
This is so disgusting.
That's her. I'm playing a YouTube video, listeners.
And she's 13?
Yeah. She looks like she's about 7 or 8.
Yeah, she does.
And, like, look at... Because her little legs were never... I mean...
Because she never learned how to walk.
I'm honestly very impressed that she even could walk.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, she's doing okay.
Yeah. It's really worth, I think, watching some, like... There's a TLC documentary that's pretty good. And then the 60 Minutes Australia. Because I think seeing it is, like...
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. And that's the room where she was kept.
Now, I've had... I'm obviously not going to name names, but I've had students...
There's the potty chair.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That, when they were babies, have been, like, just left into rooms.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
To fend for themselves. They're fortunately not with those people anymore.
Yeah.
But, in difference, like, more than once, I've had that come up with kids. But, yeah. Because, like, she can't express that trauma. Mm-hmm. Like, express that, to process that. Like, not even alone. Well, and the fact that she won. So, not that it makes any difference whether or not her IQ is, but if she tested within an average range, like...
It's just so terrible. Like, the whole thing is awful. But, yeah. Can you imagine just, like, being in a room like that for 10 years?
No.
Pissing and shitting all over yourself.
Thinking that was
like, that's what life is.
Well, now, was the brother not locked away?
So, no, the brother wasn't locked away, but the dad beat the shit out of the brother, too. And
I'm assuming he beat the shit out of mom.
Yeah. And then the brother later had, like... later in life, like, had some issues, as you can imagine. But I don't think... I don't know.
It's an awful cycle. We need to break the cycle, people.
Yes, we need to break the cycle. It's so sad. But
God,
I've been picking some really... Gang stalking wasn't too bad, but...
That wasn't that dark.
This and the Sauter family was really sad ones.
I mean, we are the dark file. I remember Cam and Audrey came to visit on my birthday or whatever. And he's like, when's it going to get dark? Because at that point we did, like, elf people and fairies. And I'm like, it's pretty... We're getting there.
Yeah. So
Jesus.
That is a very sad case of Genie Wiley. But yeah, I would definitely check out some stuff on YouTube about her because it's so... I think, again, seeing it is just so sad. It
is different, guys, watching it because Emily has pulled up on YouTube. And it's one thing to, like, picture a 13... She does not look you would think a 13-year-old would look like.
She looks maybe 7.
In this picture, she's taller, so she looks maybe 10. But in the other one, she looked about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
She can't even... Like, whose hand is she holding? She has to have somebody hold her hand?
I guess,
as she's walking.
Yeah, and they would, like, do, like, intelligence tests, like... like, she can do stuff. God, it's so sad.
God, Emily, I think you win the prize for the darkest story. This one, to me, the Sauter family seems so far away, even though I know it's not. And they, like, people lived and families fought for them and did this one. And this is just literally a vicious, awful cycle.
Yeah, the Sauter family did have some, like, hope in it. Like, because they loved those kids so much and tried so hard.
Searching for them and doing whatever. And this is just sad.
I know. I'm sorry.
Oh, God. Yeah. All right. Well, Emily.
That wasn't a very long one.
That's okay.
All right.
We make our own rules, man.
Okay.
It's a wild, wild west out here in the podcast world. But I realized we forgot to say this in the last episode. To follow us on social media.
Yes.
Text us or email. Well, though most people don't email. But darkfilespodcast@gmail.com. You can email any suggestions. We do take them, and we love them. I have a couple of weird topics coming up I have a whole notepad of suggestions, but send them, and then you can follow us on Insta and Twitter.
Yes, Insta is Dark Files Podcast.
Dark Files Podcast.
And Twitter is the Dark Files Pod.
The Dark Files Pod. I don't know that we do too much on the Twitter or the twatter, as I say, but we have it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking. So we are getting close, not all the way, but close to 1,000 downloads. Which I know in other big people podcast worlds, that's not very many. But considering you and I honestly didn't think we would make it to 12 episodes.
Is there a 12th episode?
This is 13.
Oh my gosh.
This is 13, I think.
That's crazy.
Because you're number 1, so you're always odds and I'm evens.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking for the 1,000th episode, we should do a giveaway.
Oh, yeah.
And I know I keep talking about giveaways, but maybe I'll make some, like, shirts or something on the Cricut, like Dark Files shirts.
Oh my God, I would love that. Let's do it.
Maybe, like, for the 1,000th download, you have to, like, share or tag somebody that you would like to listen to this, like, on Instagram or something.
Yeah, and then we can do a giveaway.
And do a giveaway, and you can be, like, in a drawing. So we'll send some more info out on that when we get to 950.
Okay. How many do we have now?
We were at like 760 or 7 something. So we got some time, but I'm really excited about it. The possibility of a giveaway and 1,000 seems like a good number.
I agree.
Okay, guys. Well, so Emily, for this sad fucking dark case of Genie Wiley, what do we say?
We say case closed.
Stay spooky. I'm really sad now.